My name's Chris McDermott. I am a developer and a coach. I work with teams up in Glasgow and Scotland. I'm also a conference organiser. I organise Lean Agile Scotland. We plug it's happening in September in Edinburgh again this year. And I'm kind of one of the co-organisers of the Lean Agile Glasgow meetup group. I'm also quite indecisive. I have to apologise. When I spoke to Hosey about speaking here, I gave an abstract which I proposed to another conference and said I wasn't too sure about what I was going to title the session. But here's a couple of options. Kanban It's Personal is one that I think has made it onto the paperwork that's around today. The other side of Kanban, which was another title that one of my friends had suggested after showing the abstract, made it onto the website. And then, after actually going through and preparing the presentation, I kind of thought this is a better title, so Kanban's Respect for People. If you think it's about personal Kanban, it's not about personal Kanban, and I apologise and give you an opportunity to leave at the moment. So that I may mention Jim Benson at some point, but if I remember, but it's certainly not about personal Kanban. So what is it about? I don't know how you can see that. In Lean, there are two pillars. The first pillar is the pillar of continuous improvement. And in the Kanban community, we talk about this a lot. This is something that we really focus on. We talk about improvement of the delivery, our predictability. We talk about the quality we improve. And the general improvements are focused around the economic benefits we get from using Kanban. We also, on another kind of economic strand, we talk about we prioritise through the cost of delay, we talk about class of service, and all of these things come under, certainly in my mind, under the banner of the economic benefits we see from Kanban. We don't talk so much, not to say that we don't talk about it, we don't talk so much about the other pillar of Lean, which is the respect for respect for people, respect for pillars. So I'm kind of that's what I want to talk about, how Kanban helps us build respectful and understanding systems for the people who work in the systems. Now, the reason I've kind of come to this, it's kind of born out of a regret that I have. About maybe 5 years ago, before I had any awareness of Kanban, I was given the opportunity to lead an agile change at an organisation, and it was quite exciting for me, and I went to do this. And I'd come from a very experienced, very well-oiled XP team at an investment bank, and I came to this team, and I kind of thought I had this blueprint of how it should work, and I'll bring it to this team and I'll show them this is the blueprint, this is how we're going to do it, and we'll go ahead and work that way. As I went through and gave them some training, it was all quite new to them, I kind of began to realise that half of the team were really quite enthusiastic about this, and the other half of the team, they didn't quite have the same passion and interest. At the time, I kind of categorised these two sort of groups of the team. The first category was the geeks. These were the guys who go home at night. These are the people who are passionate about the change. They go home at night and maybe submit something to GitHub, some open source project or whatever. And the other guys were the guys who just came in, did the job, and went home, and that was it. And I kind of categorised them as the 9-to-5 developers, a bit derogatory term, which I guess is part of my regret. So as I was trying to build this agile team, it became apparent that it wasn't going to be successful with everyone. So the organisation decided we'll split the team in two. So I led the geeks on the agile charge, and we developed the product that the organisation was looking for. We gave them the economic benefits, and they were happy with that. While on the other side, the people who weren't quite so interested, they stayed to maintain the kind of legacy product that the organisation had. And over time I began to, as I observed this other team, I saw that they were kind of unhappy about the way they worked. There was quite a lot of stress for them. A number of them took long-term time off due to stress. And I kind of, as I observed this, I started to feel quite bad about it. I had the opportunity previously to help them and bring them on and work in a new and exciting way, and I didn't quite manage that, so I kind of felt bad about that. But at the time I didn't have the tools, I didn't know how to. What were the apart from training them and saying this is how it should work, I didn't have the mechanism to help them improve. So in essence, it was quite disrespectful to those people. Now, I think at the time I probably thought respect for people was just being nice and being pleasant to the team that was there. But I think that was again was a wrong assumption. So with the Agile team, we found that, and that was my journey into Kanban, we found that we had problems with iterative delivery. The organisation couldn't give us a week to do an iteration before they wanted to change it and give us something else. So we went to explore some new avenues, and we came across Kanban prior to David releasing the book, so this was maybe mid-2010, I think. And to me at that point, Kanban was this idea of continuous flow. I kind of went and researched looking for some way to help us, our team. I heard a Scottish accent, so clearly I kind of associated with that. And that was an interesting thing, and it helped the Agile team to deliver better. Still no help to the other team. I then was lucky enough to get the opportunity to attend David's leadership training course, which was eye-opening, I have to say. He introduced the ideas of evolutionary change. Kanban, to me, went from being this thing about continuous flow to being about change and how to help teams to change. How to, it kind of recognises that, the idea of recognising that people resist change because they have their own feelings about the way the work should work and the way they should work. And if you come to them with a change and you have a pre-designed change, which is a million miles away, then they'll resist this because it isn't part of the way they've invested a lot of time in their career and their work life. And if you come along and say, you're doing this all wrong, come and do this, you're being kind of disrespectful to them in that respect. So from Kanban and the ideas of evolutionary change, I kind of started to learn a little bit about systems thinking, and this man here, W. Edwards Deming, and began to appreciate an organisation as a system. Now, one of Deming's very kind of famous sayings is that 95% of the performance of an organisation is attributable to the system and 5% to the individual. Now, thinking back to where I was before, I was looking at these individuals and these other teams and thinking they're not interested in this change, or they can't do this change, they're not capable of this change, and not thinking of the system of the work we were trying to do and the way they were working, and the system and the systemic approach to change. So I guess what this has led me to think or believe or strongly suspect is that I guess these 4 points. People come to work each day to do a good job. I guess my feeling before was the 95 people came, they came to do just enough to get through the day and then go home. My appreciation of lean and systems thinking gets me thinking that the people do come to work to do a good job. They don't come to sort of waste their time or anyone else's. The best way to do a good job is to work within a good system. Have a good system of work and work on the 95%, as Deming said. And interestingly as well, the best people to create a good system are the people who do the work, the people who understand the work themselves. Not some external come in and tell you how you'll do it, but the people who are doing the work on a day-to-day basis, they're the best people to understand the way to improve. And the creation of good system is never ending. It's continuous. We're always looking to improve. We're always responding to change and to different demands and constantly looking to get better. So I think then, and I'll elaborate on this obviously, but Kanban is a respectful and understanding method for the evolutionary development of systems that help people do a good job. It shows respect to the people who work in a particular way. It helps them then evolve the way they work to do this good job. And let me try and elaborate on that. So I'll go through the principles and the practices and kind of call out certain things, certain elements about Kanban that I think is respectful to the people and respectful and understanding. So first we have start with what you do now. To me, this is about saying we're not going to make a value judgment on the way you work. We're not going to come in and say this is good and this is bad. We're going to start with where you are. That's the basis for our improvement. We're then going to agree to pursue incremental and evolutionary change. And we're going to do this collaboratively, we're going to do it together as part of a team. The third principle is, well, it has two elements to it, I think. One is obviously respect current roles, responsibilities and job titles. And there's another element of, I guess, the respectful element to it, but it's honesty. It's to say that we're initially doing that. Over a period of time, change will mean that the current positioning of people in teams may change. It may evolve into a better way for the kind of overall process and overall development of the system. And then encourage active leadership at all levels. This is about saying to me that contribution is valued. Again, it's not about somebody coming and tell you how to do it. It's about letting everybody get involved and expressing their ideas about how we can change. So, I guess one of the first things I like to talk about is how it helps us create a shared understanding. And I know that, I guess, well, I'll come to that, but a shared understanding from visibility. Now, previously, I imagine people would work with such a way that they understand what they're doing, but not a fuller understanding of how the team works. By employing Kanban and creating visibility, we get to see work and how it flows to us, and work and how it flows from us, and we get to have a fuller understanding of the whole system of work. We get to see various different kind of points that happen along that way. We can add extra things to our board to help us visualise a wee bit better and help us get a deeper understanding. So it's not just, again, about just a local understanding, but a full understanding. We can get an understanding of work movement. So we've got these kind of ideas of maybe some taggers on tickets as they move to say, here is, this moved yesterday. So we get an appreciation as a team that work is flowing. We can also get a deeper appreciation of work that might not be flowing. So some way of identifying work that's not quite going at the kind of as well as we think it can. And also what we talk quite often about, the understanding of work that's blocked, that's not moving. We then have the ideas that work item type and class of service. They give us, again, another level of understanding of how our team works. So, for example, here my kind of fairly rudimentary approach is red dots or red squares in the top corner of a ticket indicates a defect. So we can now clearly see that this team has a lot of defects, and as we're going to say, we can look at how we can improve that. But we also can then have an understanding of what's expected of us as a team. We can see from class of service there that so these blue tickets being kind of, I guess, a fixed date item. We've got a hard deadline date on this. It gives us an understanding of our customer expectation of what we have to do. And another kind of idea that helps us get a deeper understanding of our process and our system, how it works, is the I guess the practice of explicit policies. Mike talked about them earlier on. Just simple stickies on the board that explains here are each of the points. He kind of shied away from definition of done. I think that's maybe quite a good idea, I guess. But here we have various points that tell us that what we know as an analyst, in order to help a developer pick up a task and have everything they need to do, then we need to meet this criteria. As a developer, in order to help the tester do their job, we have to meet these criteria, and these are clearly stated. This helps with improvement, because our discussions then are about fact and about the way we work. They're not emotional and anecdotal discussions about how we think work works. This gives us a deeper understanding of our process and help us then, when it comes to improvement, have something to base that on. We can also, I guess we've got extra criteria or extra policies there around a pool. So when we come to decide on a piece of work to do, we have these constraints, these kind of policies that tell us what we should do, help us in the decision making. And another one of the things we get from Kanban, and it's first of three elements of intrinsic motivation, is this idea of choice, and an element of autonomy. And what we do, we're not being given work, we get the choice to choose when to do work within certain constraints. So we have here our board, we clear our WIP limits. We've got a developer who is free and has a choice to make on what work they'll do. There's a couple of choices I'll show you. I'll show you another one later on, but he can choose to go and help test. We can see that he's got an understanding of the flow. It kind of looks like it's blocking here a wee bit. We've got some work queued up for our test team. So he can make the choice to go and help test to get some work done and get work flowing. He can also make the choice to go and pair with another member of the team. Maybe there's somebody who's looking for assistance, or maybe that somebody else in the team is doing something interesting that individual might want to learn more about or help with. So he can make the choice to go and do either of these two things. So our developer here has made the choice to go and help test, complete a task. So that task is freed up, and then we have more choice. We have the choice to either pull the oldest item, looking at policies, or we can review a fixed date item and say, is this in danger of not being done? Should I now choose to pull this? And choice is quite a powerful thing. As Dan Pinken's idea of intrinsic motivation, autonomy, it empowers people. It lets people engage more in what they do, as opposed to being given work to do. They can then go and choose and feel that they are making the right decisions for the team to do the right things. And off we go, he's going to pull that fixed date. Obviously, he's not going to pull it until the tester pulls something, and there's capacity there to pull, but you know what I'm saying. The next is improvement. This is, I guess, the second thing in the idea of intrinsic motivation, the idea of mastery. And what we're doing here, we're back with same point. We've got choices to make on what we should do. What this developer is going to do, he's chosen to do something different. He's identified that we've got this bottleneck here, we've got this growing bottleneck, and we want to try and understand how to improve the system. So he'll go off, identify some improvement, but he's given the option to do that. And in this case, he's possibly identified that we could do something to help the downstream part of the process. We could deploy something onto an environment or whatever. But I guess what's happened here is we've spotted the need for improvement. We've gone and analysed what can be done to do that improvement, and it's been actioned. And I guess the thing I've missed out when I've been describing this, the magic that's given us this capability is the WIP limit. The visibility gives us a shared understanding. The WIP limit gives us the choice and the ability to improve. It creates the slack that lets us do that. The next is, I guess, is the element of shared purpose. We have, together, as a team, we then have the goal to do something together. The goal here is to complete work, get work flowing through our system. We also have an element of shared purpose around improvement, something we do together to improve the way we work, to make work flow better for us as a team. The next element I think Kanban allows us to do is create a sense of belonging. Same board, same flow. But again, we're working together as a team. As a unit and working within the system, our goal is to get something through to the end. And it's so much more rewarding if that's a shared experience. If you do this, you collaborate with others to get things done together. And one of a suggestion from Claudio Perone, who's on Twitter, he's the Agile Sensei. He in a talk he gave at LSSC last year, introduced this idea of ready to celebrate. We're a team, we're doing work together. When we come to done, before we say that it's done and it goes to completion, let's celebrate the fact that we've done this. You see football players jumping all over each other when they're a team and they come to completion of a piece of, scoring a goal. So why shouldn't we do this as well? Create that sense of belonging to something together. We are going to celebrate this completion. I think Claudio talked about it as when something came to the end, and maybe at the stand-up meeting in the morning, they would decide they were going to they would move something along to done. It was for him. They'd have a round of applause. This is ready to go, and they'd have a round of applause. Well done, everybody. We've done this piece of work together. Some were quite embarrassed by that, I think, and he talked about putting a volume control on the card. So when it was ready, when it was done and they were ready to celebrate it, they would just kind of pat each other on the back if they weren't quite ready to shout about it. But that helps bring us together and create this kind of sense of belonging, a sense of a team. The next one, I think, that gives us, I guess, a kind of shows a bit of respect for the people in the team. And Pavel talked a little bit earlier on about some of the elements of context switching. Is this idea of flow. I'm not talking about flow in the sense of the work flowing through, but flow in the sense that of a psychologist Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. He talks about flow being immersion, being absorbed in what you do. Kanban helps us to do that. So here we've got our WIP limits. Everyone is fully engaged in a piece of work. There's nothing here to sort of distract. We're kind of saying we've got our focus. What we have is visibility of our work. So we're kind of discouraging the interruptions. People coming in and saying, "Could you do something else?" We've got our visibility, or people coming and asking for status update. That's clear. We don't have multiple things going on, so our brain isn't competing with multiple different ideas. We don't have different tasks to think about. We have, as Pavel mentioned earlier on as well, the idea of the Zeigarnik effect, that something's done, it's done. You can switch it off. You don't have to now think about it. And this allows us to focus and get flow. As developers, I'm sure maybe it's more, if anyone's developer or experienced developing, maybe because it's in the zone. You know, when you're working on something and time just disappears, and at the end you've got this sense of achievement when something's done. Interestingly, why is that? Why is that respectful and understanding to give people the opportunity to do this? There's the ideas of positive psychology, this kind of levels of happiness that you achieve. There's kind of 3 levels. If you read anything from Martin Seligman, he talks about 3 levels of positive psychology. The first and the kind of lowest level of happiness comes from, he calls it the pleasant life, the life of experience, experiencing different things and enjoying those things, and then the ability to amplify that experience. The third and the highest, I'll come back to saying this in a minute, is this idea of the meaningful life, the purposeful life, being part of something that's bigger than you. This is an element of happiness. I think there's possibly some link we could make here with Kanban, but I'm not going to jump to that yet. But then the second, the middle level of happiness, he says, comes from the good life, or he categorises as the good life. And this comes from flow, the ideas of immersion, as I was talking about. So giving people the opportunity to do this, I think, is quite a respectful thing for your system if it allows people the opportunity to achieve this flow. The next thing is trust. So Kanban helps us gain trust. I guess it's something out with our working system is getting trust from the people who want us to do pieces of work. We can, by gathering data and understanding how long things take, we can then become predictable. We can then let others understand how long things take for us to flow through our system, and then they can give us a little bit of trust. I think the estimation thing kind of was mentioned this morning. Liz Keogh in Edinburgh last year, giving her keynote, she kind of suggested that asking people to estimate was disrespectful. Putting people in a room and saying, "Can you tell us how long this thing will take to do?" is kind of disrespectful. I guess you're putting people under pressure to give you some bit of information that you're going to then act on that may not be, fully understood, and then a lot of the time that leads to kind of expectation based on that, and you're putting people under pressure based on that. So we've got this idea of all the metrics we can gather, and we can use this to help us become predictable. We also have the idea of class of service, where we can give our customers the understanding that when we ask us to expedite something, we're going to do it now. and they can build trust that when they ask us to do that, that's what we'll do. With the idea of fixed delivery, you can, the numbers may vary based on, I guess, experience, but the idea of fixed delivery, if we're asked to do something within a reasonable time, we can almost certainly guarantee we'll do it because we'll pull it at the right time in our system. Standard work, we can create some element of predictability, saying that 85% of the time, and I guess I'm pulling numbers out here, but 85% of the time we will deliver this based on our understanding of the metrics we've gathered. So the last one I want to bring up is this idea of safety. How Kanban helps us give our teams safety to do the work. And I'll kind of paint a little scenario for you that sure some of you may understand. So we have our ops team, these kind of Cluedo guys here, our ops team, and they are responsible for the operational support and making sure our systems are secure, looking after databases, our email, etc., etc. And they're a shared service team, so they work for various different departments. They all do work for our call centre, our sales, our finance departments, our development departments, you know, many other services, I guess we can put up there. And the way pre-Kanban, the way this team would manage its work traditionally would be through some type of ticketing system. So if somebody wants some work from this team, they will go onto the system, they'll raise a ticket, and they'll wait for that to be picked up by the team. There's probably some sort of prioritisation ruling, but often when they're raising the ticket, it's maybe an emotional decision they're making. They're saying, I'm under pressure to do something, I might just raise it to be slightly higher priority. And then when it doesn't get picked up, because it just goes into this kind of large sort of backlog of work, or large list of work for this team to do, when it doesn't get picked up, we start to try and, potentially asking this team to do it in different, we poke them to say, well, maybe we've got a contact within the team, so there would be an instant message, and if that doesn't work, we didn't get the desired result from that, there's then maybe an email with a boss CC'd on it to say, we really need this for X customer, or, could you do this for us? And if that doesn't work, then, potentially they're standing at the desk and they maybe not going that far, but we're putting people under pressure to do things for us. And that's not a pleasant environment to be in as working within this team. So potentially this leads to the kind of, another late night. It can lead to a lack of understanding. What should I do next? I'm being pressured from all sides. We've got our queue of work. We've got people emailing us. We've got people standing at our desk. What should I do? It tends to, I guess, fall down to the who shouts the loudest is the prioritisation. It's kind of thankless as well if you do, you either get somebody to leave your desk when you get something done, or you close something in the system to say it's done, but it's kind of thankless in that way. It can lead to stress if people are constantly being barraged and asked to do various things. And then it can lead to a bit of tension between the team that performs the service and the various different departments that need it. Why don't they just sort out the problem themselves and use the process? And it doesn't give this team any time to think. They're kind of under pressure constantly, and it could lead to some confrontation that's not that pleasant. So how does Kanban help us here? How can Kanban help this team and give them the safety? So this is a design of a board that Ian Carroll, who organises the Limited Whip Society in Manchester, he calls this his shared service board. And the way it's worked for him in the past is he will ask the various different departments to put work on this small backlog. What's the most important thing for you? And ask them to put it on this backlog. And he asks them to prioritise it low to high. So they've got a small, say 4 tasks. We're going to prioritise from the thing that's least important for this team, and you're asking these teams to do it independently on their own to the highest. And interestingly as well, we've added in here our ops team. They maybe want time to do work themselves to improve the way they work. But we're asking these teams to prioritise the work. Then he asks them to come together to decide what goes into next. What's the most important thing for either for the organisation, or what's the most important thing for your department, and can you justify it against other departments' needs? We could possibly use cost of delay to work that out. So then it goes into this queue, and the ops team behind that have the opportunity to just pull from that queue. All this work of prioritisation and as has been done before, They don't necessarily have to get involved in that. It's the organisation comes together to prioritise the work for this team, and they can then pull from that queue and the work can flow through. They have the visibility there so that the various departments in the organisation can come and see and don't necessarily have to put the team under pressure, the individuals under pressure. We have an element of predictability that will grow from this, as we know that maybe twice a day we need to come here as these various departments and meet to decide what's next in the queue. We know that next time we meet, there's be more, another chance to put something else up, and we know that it will go through the system at a kind of a predictable rate. And the magic here that gives us that is this here. It's the buffer. Creating the buffer allows us to give an element of safety to the team. So let me summarise. I think I'm well under time, so you can off and get some lunch. So I guess I believe that Kanban helps us build this respectful and understanding, or it gives us a respectful and understanding way for the kind of evolutionary development of systems. It does it through limiting WIP, asking us to improve collaboratively, manage flow, make process policy explicit, and give us visibility, and with our principles as a baseline. So if we look at manage flow, it helps us create a shared purpose along with improving collaboratively. It helps us create a shared purpose. Limiting WIP gives us the opportunity to improvement, again, linking with improving collaboratively. Limiting WIP gives us choice. Limiting WIP helps us with the Csikszentmihalyi's ideas of flow. It helps create safety. Visibility also can help with flow. It can help with safety and help us create that sense of belonging. And then, again, at the bottom there, visibility and our process policies give us an idea of shared understanding. And two, I guess, the ideas behind this is the idea of intrinsic motivation. If you look up some Dan Pink and his book Drive. And then belonging, questionable, but flow from the ideas of positive psychology. So that was me. So I guess I'd say people come to work to do a good job, and Kanban helps us build the systems that enable that. Thank you very much. Any questions? Yes.
One part of the agile movement is to have cross-skilled teams, but quite often teams are very reticent or actively against doing other types of work. I'm thinking of testers who want to deliver, developers that want to do testing.
Yep.
But we know that that's a costly thing to do. Yep. More efficiently. How do you approach that respectfully?
I guess that's a hard one that requires a systemic change. I guess maybe if we looked at the slide earlier, we had all the defects. We can come with ideas. We can say, here's our understanding of how we work just now, and this is giving us this level of quality. It's something we can do. So it gives us people the opportunity then to make these suggestions in the team themselves. We can improve by doing more testing, or we can improve by potentially changing an approach to testing and doing behaviour-driven development along those lines, and experiment with that, so we can show evidence that change would then work for us.
Do you actually apply this with the team that kind of was dissatisfied? The also ran.
Sadly, no. I moved on from that organisation at the time. I kind of came to this.
So I think it's quite interesting. I've done it within one of our teams, and one of the people who wasn't involved in it right from the beginning actually said they found it more dehumanising than doing Scrum, because I think they didn't really deeply believe in the WIP limit, so they thought we were just putting artificial things in the way of improvement. It's just interesting to see if you could go back once you've got that negative kind of feeling out there, whether you can go back and fix it.
Yeah, so on one of your previous slides, you were talking about having predictability of like 99% of our fixed paid work done on time. Yep. You mentioned standard work at 80. It was done on time. Surely standard work is done as soon as possible. How can you define on time?
So, I guess your lead time, as Mike talked about earlier on, is based on from your commitment point to delivery. Standard work being done as soon as possible, I guess that would be a prioritisation decision. So do we choose to do standard work first, or fixed date delivery work, or expedite work? These are all kind of decisions at that level. I'm not sure if I understand your.
Well, look, if you've got a standard piece of work, but we're not saying, well, I mean, maybe you have got an SLA saying that every bit of work will at least be done in 3 months or something. But if you haven't got that sort of defined boundary, how can you determine whether a standard piece of work was done on time or not?
So if you don't have an expectation how long it will take, or you know, I guess it's the SLA is driven from a commitment. You're saying that if somebody wants a piece of work from us, we know it's going to take us this long, and we've committed to say we can do it within that period of time.
As you've almost come up with a time limit on the point of commitment.
Yeah, well, you would. There's an element of analysis. You don't just arbitrarily assign these times that you've got to as your experience goes with a particular approach. Then you gather data, and that helps you make that decision. I think one of the charts.
So it would be fair to say, you could say, like, having had this discussion with you, there's an 85% chance you could have it within 10 days. Is that acceptable?
Yeah.
Rather than we're committing to give it to you on the 14th of March and we'll get it.
Yeah.
So,
So this information is a spectral analysis. This is a completion of work and the cycle time of work. So we can roughly say that if somebody wants something certain days, 180, we can be pretty sure we're going to deliver it with 180 days. We can be absolutely positive we're going to deliver it within 260 days. And depending, I guess, on our understanding of it, we could maybe, we could give some agreement to an earlier time than that.
Possibly more observation, but just interested in your thoughts on it, is the idea of the Kanban board being that everyone can actually see what's going on and the whole visibility. I think on the whole is definitely a very good thing. But is it the case where you can basically hide things in plain sight, and that in itself could be disrespectful to people in the team? So one easy example is like burying things in the backlog. It might be on the board, it might have a card, so someone say, well, this area for improvement, say, stick it in the backlog.
Right.
You know you're not going to deal with it for the next 6 months. It's a way of saying, I'm just not interested in that. But the other one on your other slide there is we have like swim lanes for the stakeholders and like different departments.
Yep.
Yeah, if you've got the dev one, there's a possibility that will always come last. Okay, so sales, they make the company money, therefore always goes to the top of the queue because they're more important than devs wanting to refactor their code bases.
So that's an interesting one. Too many animations. Far too many animations, sorry. So you're talking about the decision making from taking work from there to here?
Yeah.
So I guess we can look at work and you've got to have some sort of level baseline as to what's its value, and we do that through cost of delay. What's the cost of us not doing this? This might be value generating, a piece of sales work, but this ops work might mean that if we don't do this, then we will resume. We won't be able to keep the systems running or whatever. So it's about trying to create some level playing field, and I think that's very difficult, especially with various different departments and the way organisations are generally built into these silos. It's hard, I guess, to do that. I think it's a difficult one. I think maybe it becomes more of a, if you're doing it on a regular basis, it can become a kind of, I guess there's some sort of element of a social behaviour comes from it. So we're constantly asking, it's constantly sales that are getting, is there anything we can do to improve that? So this approach may change at that point. It may not be a kind of desired approach to it.
Just to add to that point, we really struggle with doing anything other than prioritising maintenance work and client-led itty-bitty crap, basically. And we're effectively trialling, budgeting the amount of time per cycle of work that we do, so that we can try harder to force ourselves to prioritise key development work and things which actually do add value to the product. So if you struggle to not sort of cheat your way to saying, yes, this is the best thing ever, then it can be helpful to try and force yourself into that by looking at this. I don't know yet. We don't know if we've managed it.
We just had an open session, and the outcome of it was we ended up discussing about how you keep an agile team, a Kanban team motivated. Have you got any tips for that as well?
So motivated to.
Well, we were talking about bonuses, and Chaplain was talking about giving out petals which you can give to somebody else. And we talked about kudos factors and things like that. And we seem to be looking for ways we keep people interested in the change and motivated as we keep.
So, I guess, as Dave mentioned this morning, any extrinsic motivation kills intrinsic motivation. So any reward for doing something kills the desire to do it, and that kills the desire to do it. I guess what I was trying to lead to there was that Kanban helps us create a level of intrinsic motivation. We've given autonomy and choice. We're given mastery, the ability to improve, and we're purpose as a group. Our purpose is to complete the work. So constantly focusing on that, I think, helps. It's difficult, you know, but I think that gives us something to do it.
Purpose and empowerment.
Yeah. I would. If I've not read Drive by Dan Pink, I'd pick that up. That's quite interesting. Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Thank you very much.